please enjoy this wonderful panel discussion with Jay, Cindi, and Mariela.
Testing, testing, testing. Okay. Thank you very much for coming out today. Really, the impetus of this whole program was based on, we had this wonderful HEAL documentary here at Lake Harriet that we played 3 times to sold-out crowds, because it gives you an idea how much demand there is for the mind-body connection and finding that inner harmony inside of us. Anything we can do to augment and reduce the need on pharmaceuticals, anything like that. So based on all that popularity of the HEAL documentary, this panel is basically came out of that thought. So I'm just honored to be share this space with 2 other so talented teachers of my own. So just want to get into a few things. We've probably heard this before, but 75% to 90% of all doctor-related visits are stress-related. So it tells you that the mind makes a difference on the body, and there's a continual flow of information between the mind and the body and mind. But we also understand that everything is energy, and so when we have an incoherent thought, and that transmits into the body, it starts to get a disruption. And the disruption turns into inflammation and turns into a whole host of different things based on the chemicals that the body receives. So here are some big triggers. Now, these are just some little ones, little things like failure, little things like judgment. Even there is a fear of success. How is my life going to change if I'm wildly successful? I'm going to have new friends. I'm going to have to do all these things differently. Death and illness, and being alone and unloved. If I screw up on this talk, I'm going to fail. I'll be judged. I will end up alone and unloved. So there's a deep fear underneath of all these things, and of course, public speaking. Who hasn't heard that before? How many people would rather die than be up on public, than talk in front of public? But I guess for me, I was able to look at it, reframe it as a form of excitement, but also know that it's not about me. It's about the work. It's about the message, and I'm just this energetic experience that gets to deliver the message. So that's kind of a way to look at it, to rise above it a little bit. What are some other triggers out there? Just fire a few out. Any things that really just get you going? Work. Oh, God. Parenting. Let's not talk politics. That's a whole separate discussion. Okay, politics. Agreed. Cold weather. Ooh, yes. Social media. Any kind of media. Expectations is a huge one, because we always think we have to set the bar to do things perfectly in order to be loved, in order to be accepted. And if we don't meet that expectation, it forms anxiety, forms a rub, forms some kind of contrast. So just some recent data, 1 in 8 people has some form of anxiety. A lot of it is untreated. And that's just a few things digging around. It's no secret also that teens have a high level of anxiety based on immediacy of information. And so when we don't have that immediacy, forms contrast, forms stress. Anybody who's ever trying to go someplace and you lose Google Maps, or you lose your GPS coordinates, we freak out. If we don't have this, I'm lost. I have no idea where I am in space. That's all happened to us. We all freak out, and that is absolutely normal. We are all experts in stress and anxiety. We all have different experiences, and that is the beauty of it. But it's knowing that we're not alone, but that's just something that came out of that I recently saw. And also prescription drugs just followed this path. The increase in 400% in the last 20 years. That's a pretty big number. So now, in just thinking about how this is all organized, thinking about the brain. So if we have a thought we keep thinking, it forms an architecture in your brain and it becomes hardwired. It's the same thing for food, same things for work, same thing to do the same thing over and over again. It just gets more and more hardwired in the brain. So it just helps to understand the architecture as you look at other people, look at yourself, and also look at through patterns, and look at other people in your family, friends, relationships. They keep doing the same things over and over again based on that architecture. So it just kind of, but it's formed that way for a reason, because our mind is trained. It takes up a lot of energy. Of the energy we take in, 20% of our energy is used just for this small little tissue, called the brain. So it uses a lot of energy, but it's organized to be as efficient as possible. So it wants to use the same pathways that are already built up inside this architecture. And so when they say, if you want to remember somebody's name, you always try and associate it with somebody else that you know of that same name, because that's taking advantage of the architecture that already exists. So it's built on efficiency. It's no secret that we've all heard of this wonderful, perfect example, Viagra, the drug Viagra, very popular in what they do. Well, Viagra rhymes with Niagara, strong, powerful. All this built on association. The drug had much greater effects because of this association in the brain. If they would have called it flopsytocin, different results. So, but that's thinking about the brain itself, and there's three different parts of the brain. Typically, the subconscious level, basically this reptilian brain that we have right in the back here, that's really initiates the fight, flight, or freeze mechanisms in our brain. We're trying to run away from that tiger. We're trying to avoid that awkward thing, whatever if it's a parent, family member, work associate, your boss. That is fight or flight. And generally say, when you're in an argument situation, you can't have new thought, because all the blood flows into this old reptilian structure of the brain. And so nothing new gets through. Nothing gets into the neocortex. So if you're in an argument and the other person doesn't understand your frame of reference, and understand where you're coming from, you have to circle back. You have to get calm and come at it again when there's a shot. You've got a shot at getting into the frontal part and having a new thought after you get calm and focused. Otherwise, the blood is back here and you have no chance. So. And also, and based on thinking about that blood, all that stuff in the back part of your brain, that reptilian brain, we have a negativity bias. We're always trying to look out for that piece, for that thing that's going to eat us, the thing that's going to devour us, chase us, whatever it is, a fear-based mechanism. And so, but we had to use this in order to survive. So basically, in couples therapy, they say you have to have 5 positive experiences with a spouse in order to balance one negative experience, because we give so much extra weight to that negative, because that's how we learn through our subconscious mind and through that old reptilian brain behavior. And so, but our minds are also these amazing machines that are predicting machines that are addicted to closure. If you think of it as a triangle, first side, for example, I sent Mariela a text. Second side of the triangle is she hasn't gotten back to me. Well, the third side, I'm trying to fill in that with my mind all the time. We're trying to think, well, maybe Mariela is ticked off at me because of the PowerPoint. Maybe Mariela maybe she got hit by a bus. That is the mind trying to fill in the gaps, fill in that closure. And so we think of worry as being on the left side of the brain. Left side of the brain, the right side is where we catastrophize. That's where we go, Mariela is lying in a ditch somewhere. Whatever it is, we all do it. And we've all had these messages left on our phones. This is, your mother just left a voicemail. Oh, crap. What could that be? And so your mind is filling in all these things about, where could this go? When in reality, she's left a message because she can't get her remote control to work, so she can't watch Jeopardy. And Jeopardy is on in 20 minutes. She is not at her ideal state right now because she wants to see Alex Trebek so damn bad. But our mind fills in that gap. It catastrophizes and thinks about all these things where we could go with it. And same with the nocebo and the placebo effect. We've all read research and seen the stuff about how effective the placebo is in healing any kind of disease. It's the sugar pill that actually releases the chemicals that the body needs, that a different pill would have done. So they do all these double-blind tests with pharmaceuticals to see if they would have greater performance against the placebo, and if they have favorable results, then it gets moved on to the next step. So the placebo is a very powerful effect. But also on the opposite side is the nocebo. That's where I don't believe this is helping. I don't believe this is going to make any difference for me. Equally as effective. So we have to be very careful what thoughts we think, because that will create this chemical system into our bodies. So, for example, here's a nice little systemic pathway, and then we'll pass it on to Cindi. Starting from perfect experience, you're feeling whole, you're feeling complete. Then we have the stressor, the event. We have these things all day long. Whatever those things are, they just kind of pop up, and they create. It's an event, but it is a neutral event. All events are neutral. But when we start adding the perception and the internal experience to it, then we start creating the system, creating that thought, creating the chemical that releases a biological response. And so getting into the adrenal cortex releases a cortisol, which basically jumps sugar and fat in the blood system, so you can rise up and fight against that thing that's coming your way, that stressor, that thing. And so what's interesting, in addition to releasing the cortisol, it also releases the adrenaline, so your blood starts pumping, your heart starts thumping like mine is right now. Or maybe but it also releases oxytocin, which is that cuddle drug, that love drug, that social drug that wants us to be around other people. If I'm in misery, I want other people with me. So I thought that was an interesting part of what the body does as a compensating feature. So, but there is good news. So I'm just setting up the pins, and Cindi and Mariela are going to knock them down.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Yes. All of that stuff can feel pretty daunting if you think that you are you're only your body, that you're only the brain. But because we come in hooked up to something so much greater, and the only way we could think about doing that is thinking about those dots. Is like more of us actually, on an essence level, exists in the formless. And I always say that then the amount that comes into my body got shrink wrapped with my body. And that then seems like me, my body. But I'm so hooked up to so much more. And that essence that gets poured into us is uncontaminated and remains uncontaminated, which I think is huge news. So in my work, for many years, working with people who have many issues, but a lot of them depression and anxiety, and I had it too, is that gets labeled like it's an illness. And for me, it's evidence of that essence that's within me. And I'll tell you why. Because the larger part of you really is that amazing essence. And that essence you're born with. It's who you truly are. And like I said, we got these bodies that wrapped it. And that essence, you can use a lot of different words for it. Your resilience, your true self, your spirit or your energy. That is formless. And that is always current. Okay? That doesn't move back into your past, and it doesn't move forward. That is you, always current. But the brain takes us back and forth, right? Yeah. So we have that, guidance system of our essence, and it encompasses so much. It's your wisdom, it's your common sense, it's your instincts or your intuition, your creativity, your love, just the capacity of anything that, all of those words, as you can see, and I've talked about this here before, is they're formless, aren't they? You can't grab it, you can't go buy it. That it's formless. Well, if it's formless, then it's a good indicator that it's coming and is a part of your innate health, your essence. So for me, that was huge. And with the work that I do with people is that piece isn't going to be harmed by you having some anxiety. It's actually probably what is offering you anxiety. So your essence will use anxiety as a voice. So to me, when somebody is depressed, it's evidence to me that their core health is not in alignment with whatever they're doing or thinking. Does that make sense? So the same goes for anxiety. That if you have an event happening and you have a thought about it, and it's not a thought that honors your well-being or the well-being of others, your anxiety comes up as a vehicle, a voice from your core health trying to say, not that way. And so it's really huge for me in the reframing of anxiety, because we've called it a disorder. But for me, it's like, if I feel anxious, it's my time to do a checkup from the neck up. Kind of look at what I call the static in my attic up here. Take a peek at what did I just offer myself, or what am I energetically picking up that is not in service to me, that does not honor my essence. So your essence, if you're ignoring it, will get louder and louder. Have you noticed that? Like the things you try to go, well, it's not that big a deal. And then you keep around that situation, or you keep telling yourself that heavy-hearted thought, and then all of a sudden you get more and more anxious. So it's really interesting to me, and I see people recover a lot faster when they start to switch the idea that anxiety is a disorder rather than it's coming from your core health. So it always is letting you know how you're doing, your system, what you're picking up. So this part here, this, anxiety is created as an interpreter, or to assign meaning. If you think of, like Jay said, also the predictor. So it's like the middleman, your brain, always interpreting this event out here, or this person, or the energy I'm picking up out here. And it's always doing that in a super fast fashion, right? Like before you know it, you might feel anxious, and then you have to backtrack to figure out what you might have just said to yourself, or where you were that you picked that up. Yeah, because it's so fast. And what I see is we're a culture that's going faster and faster. When I work in schools, if an educator asks a question, all these hands go up for the kids right away, and then when the teacher calls on them, they'll go, I don't really have. But they wanted to, because they thought they had to have their hand up and have the answer. So it's the innocence of this moving, quick culture that the brain is getting wired to go so fast. And it's that time to kind of say, like, wait a minute, if I have anxiety, or if I have a heavy heart or feel low all of a sudden, and I was just fine, what just happened? So I take a peek up here, do a checkup. And a lot of times it's just within a nanosecond that my brain offered me something. So the brain it thinks it's helping, so thank you. I'm always saying that I thank my brain for sharing that, and then I let it go on by. But it's always offering something, because it acts as this interpreter, the commentator, the meaning maker, the predictor, doesn't it? And it's so annoying sometimes, right? Yeah. If it was, I I can appreciate it if I was in danger and then it hurried up and tried to get me something up here. That would make sense to me. But it could be the most mundane thing. It could be anything. It could be just like Jay said, somebody doesn't return the call and you got to make a meaning of it. You know, you walk outside and you make a meaning of it. We're concluding all the time. And it's not always in service to us. And it also doesn't respect the fact that your core essence could give a rip if you were cold. You know, your core essence, honestly, your body cares if it's cold, but your core essence is uncontaminated. I had an experience, my dad got hit on he was on his motorcycle and got hit in 2006. And he got thrown from his motorcycle numerous feet. And then I was here in Minneapolis, drove quickly up to Brainerd, and he was in the hospital. They couldn't regulate his vitals. They couldn't get him regulated. So they were all very concerned because he wasn't doing well. And I walked into the room, and I could feel that because he got hit on his motorcycle, his essence got knocked out or chose to hop out. So he was not all the way in his body. Okay? So I had to, in that moment, of course, I got scared. My brain offered me, get him in. And then I had to quiet down for a second and be like, do I have the right to put him in? So I had to kind of check in energetically with his essence to see. And then as I moved him back in, his vitals regulated. Okay. So what was it that went out? His essence. When he went back in, he woke up, he had his eyes kind of welled with tears, and he looked at me and he said, thank you. So that's not a story about me, but that's a story about that evidence that the essence is uncontaminated. So that helps me if there's scary things in my life, or somebody mistreats me, or I don't like the energy I'm in, or something like that, is to just know that, you know what, my essence doesn't care. It's okay. So what do I need to do to get my body back in alignment with that, or my environment, the people I hang with, or what I'm telling myself? Because that essence is just offering the discomfort to be in service. So that's a really nice thing to know. So your essence, Jay mentioned a few things there, but your essence won't get behind your critical thinking of yourself, or your essence won't get behind the idea that you're inadequate, or going too far into the future. Your essence won't get behind you undermining yourself, predicting. How many of you do the predicting what you think other people are thinking about you? I know. Yeah, and as soon as you do that, it's like your stomach gets tight. What ways do you feel your anxiety? Tight stomach, what else? Lump in the throat. What's that? Clenching your jaw. Heart palpitations. Yeah. Hot flashes. Immediately your hormones, because that cortisol rushes up. It starts to rob, your adrenals, and the cortisol offer the body the way to rob you of your hormones, and then all of a sudden, yeah. So it's very interesting. So your system will also get anxious sometimes if you're picking up discordant vibrations. If you're around something that doesn't honor well-being of others, that's a discord. And so your system will get kicked up too. And that's a good thing, because that just lets you know, whoa, something's off here. That doesn't mean something's bad. Doesn't mean anybody's bad, because everybody's got that essence. But it just means something is off here. And then how do I want to get in alignment? So, we have many ways that we're getting information, your sensory system and everything, but the two primary ways is the brain, which often offers you what you've already known, and your essence, which is always connected to something greater, offering you what you need. And then it will use your brain with what you know if needed. So I'm always trying to have my brain take a little bit more of a back seat so that my essence takes the front seat and leads. But I can't do that if I'm whipped up. So the way that you know whether it's coming from your essence or your head is to quiet down, huh? Yeah, that's why meditation or learning to just not trust your thinking all the time is good.
Something that I just want to augment where Cindy's going with it. Just thought that is fitting better in this section about reframing and retraining. Just how important belief in is shaping that biology, and just that repetitive thought and that continual flow. I can get the next. Was just interesting. Some of the research was that this came out not too long ago. It's about the belief of what stress does for you. And so this is one side of that coin, is that you believe stress is bad for you. And that shows up with a greater increased risk of death, and through some of the research. And then, but also the power of not thinking that it's harmful to you. Thinking that it's your body rising to the challenge. Think is it your body just having a sharper focusing mechanism. These people, this perception that this was not harmful to me, these people showed the least likely aspects in the study of having the death experience. So I thought that was really curious to see just our belief about stress. Is do I believe it as harmful, or do I believe it as my body rising up, or an opportunity to sharpen my focus?
I would just like to add to that. So that's why, we always want to get rid of it as soon as we feel it. That's why it's good to know that your essence won't be affected by you having it. Your body will have the discomfort of it, but if you don't perceive it as negative or bad, you will survive, it'll be okay, that then you're not putting your body into that accelerated place with it. So that helps you start interrupting.
There was just another study I wanted to point out about basically for every major stress event that people have, increased the risk of mortality by up to 30%. But the people who had experiences in caring for others were able to knock that down to nothing. So it was caring that creates resilience in the body. It almost shows like you're stepping outside of your body and being of service. So I thought that was a very valuable statistic and research event, just showing how it basically affects. I think it just relates to the heart and being able to give versus being in yourself and thinking that you're just this entity.
Well, it's also in alignment with your essence, to offer, to be in service. So Mariela's going to do this piece.
Good morning, everybody. Well, here I am giving you some tools. You can hear me? This is better? Thank you. As you can hear, it is very important to have mind, body, and spirit working together. And of course, as we know already, because of a lot of studies that have been done, that yoga and meditation, and of course even alternative healing methods will help get rid of the problem, or at least tackle the problem. My specialty is Hatha Yoga. It's very much about the creating balance between both opposites, even the right and the left hemisphere. It's about bringing, with your breath, bringing yourself inward and making sure that you can quiet your mind when you have those moments of anxiety and stress. In yoga, we always create a moment where we can recognize our patterns and we see what's going on. And the more open you get, the more you can receive, like Cindy and Jay also said, the more you can let your core come through, your spirit come through, and put your mind aside. That's when it happens and you'll be more open. So the moment you get open, the mind is very much open for all kinds of things. So even though you have moments that you have anxiety, that doesn't mean right away that you're able to control the moment. And as you can see, the research has been very much been, just go Google online and see what meditation does and what yoga does. And of course, we have all kinds of meditations. We have all kinds of yoga we can do. I would recommend Hatha Yoga because it's one of the most simplest forms to do. But of course, it's what you prefer to do. So just to tell you real short about meditation, it's very much about, your mind. Stress is mind with an agitation, and meditation is mind without it. It reduces stress, improves concentration, and as you can see, healthy lifestyle, but also increase self-awareness, happiness, and acceptance. That's a very important one, I think, when you really feel depressed, or you're feeling certain thoughts, or you're feeling certain emotions that you can't really handle. It slows aging, that's a really good one, and it benefits the cardiovascular and immune health. Just to tell you what science has been doing, they've been classifying all kinds of meditations, and they look at meditations in two ways: the focused attention meditation, for example, the Zazen chakra meditation, so you're really focusing on a certain point or a certain breathing, or even with the sound meditation, you're listening to sounds. And we have the open monitoring meditation that is very much about mindfulness, really staying in the moment and let things come. The Vipassana and the Taoist meditation, again, it's up to you to go and check out what you would like. Just for now, I know there are a lot of other things that you can do, but right now the most popular ones are Reiki, acupuncture, acupressure, quantum healing, and it all has to do with balancing the mind, body, and spirit. Me, myself, I'm a Reiki practitioner, and I had a very intense experience with my dad. He had a panic attack, and he really didn't know what to do, and I said, you know what? I said, stand up, and I'll put my hands on you, and you have to believe me, in that moment you're going to be totally fine. You have to surrender that your spirit will help you out, and me grounding you right here with my hands on your feet, and you'll be totally fine. And from really high breathing, I'm getting the chills because I'm feeling that moment again. From that high breathing, I could really have him slow down, and he could totally surrender to that moment, me helping him and him trusting that everything was going to be okay. Other healing methods, crystal healing, guided imagery. I personally have been doing a lot of guided imagery since 2006. One of my teachers were Dr. Joe Dispenza and many others, and I've been really, trying to create my reality. One of the things was this today, so I'm very happy it happened. So since 2006, when you create your reality, consciously or unconsciously, as we know, the core essence knows very well what to do, but the ego wants to kind of fight certain things and not always surrendering. And I've been very much experiencing the good things and the bad things of creating your reality. EFT is a very good, for the subconscious, very good training to do too. But for now, I just want to make sure we have enough time so I can give you the tools to deal with anxiety and stress. So I'm going to give you two exercises. One is the grounding exercise. It's an exercise that you can do lying down. They call it the corpse pose, or in the child's pose, although child's pose could be a little bit maybe too much because the knees could hurt. And for now, we're going to just do it seated. And the other breathing exercise is a breathing exercise with alternate nostril breathing, which really balances out the mind. They've seen, when they did studies, that you're balancing out the left and the right hemisphere. And especially when you go breathe through your left nostril, your right hemisphere is calming down. It's calming down the nervous system. It's calming down your blood pressure and your heart rate. So especially when we're trying to balance things out, we alternate nostril breathing. Okay, so just make yourself comfortable right now. Have your feet on the floor. And if you feel like it, you can just slowly close your eyes or just look at a spot in front of you, maybe the back of a chair. Have your hands on your thighs. Sit up straight. And just take a deep breath for a moment. Let just all that information and everything sink in, everything you've heard. And now I would like you to go with your attention to your feet. And we're going to do the exercise that's called the auto-suggestion exercise. And say to yourself in your own mind, tell your own body, I relax my feet. I relax my feet. My feet are relaxed. Go with your attention up to your shins and calves. And again, say to your body, I relax my shins and calves. I relax my shins and calves. My shins and calves are relaxed. Go with your attention more up to your thighs. And say to yourself, I relax my thighs. I relax my thighs. My thighs are relaxed. Go with your attention to your belly. And again, tell your body, I relax my belly. I relax my belly. My belly is relaxed. Go with your attention to your buttocks and say to yourself, I relax my buttocks. I relax my buttocks. My buttocks are relaxed. Go with your attention more up your chest. Say to yourself, I relax my chest. I relax my chest. My chest is relaxed. Go with your attention to your back, your whole back, lower back, mid back, upper back. And say to yourself, I relax my whole back. I relax my whole back. My whole back is relaxed. Go with your attention to your arms and fingers. Say to yourself, I relax my arms and fingers. I relax my arms and fingers. My arms and fingers are relaxed. Go with your attention to your neck and your shoulders. And again, say to yourself, I relax my neck and shoulders. I relax my neck and shoulders. My neck and shoulders are relaxed. Go with your attention to your face and just check in for a moment if your lips are relaxed, in your jaws, your cheeks, your nose, your eyes and eyelids, your ears, your eyebrows and your forehead, and your skull. A lot of stress can resonate there. And just say to yourself, I relax my face and skull. I relax my face and skull. My face and skull are relaxed. Take a deep breath in your own way and say to yourself, I relax my whole body. I relax my whole body. My whole body is relaxed. And just remember this state of stillness and slow breathing. It is not a right away about influencing your breath, it's rather clearing your focus and just dive into your body, every body part. Remember. Okay, bring your awareness to this room and just slowly open your eyes. Just take one more deep breath. And I believe we have 3 more minutes for nostril breathing. Okay.
Thank you, Mariela, for that was a wonderful meditation. The breath is the only part of our autonomic nervous system that we have control over. So always know that in those moments, you always have your breath to rely on, whether it's traffic, whatever anxiety and moments come up on. That awareness of the thought, and notice you can always go back to your breath, is the key for finding that coherent message between your brain and your body. Now we'd like to just take a few minutes and get some questions from the audience. If Neil will run around with a microphone, so when we capture it on YouTube, at least we'll have the message over the microphone. So if anybody has specific questions, the panel will do our best to answer.
Hi, thank you all. So you were talking about the 2 types of meditation. One of them was the
Focused,
and the other one was open.
open monitoring, yeah.
Could you just say a little bit more about that? Is that like when I'm washing dishes and I'm just totally focused on washing dishes? Is that a form of that?
It's a part of mindfulness, for sure. Because with mindfulness, you're really trying to stay in the present now. And you're really trying not to go with your thoughts to the past or the future. So when you're able to just have your focus in one place, that could be, something like mindfulness. Maybe, Jay, do you want to add something to it? Because Jay has been trying out all kinds of meditations in his life, right?
I guess one thing, Ella, about it, having an open focus meditation, which is one thing that's, I guess, highly recommended, taking your attention not only to your body, but to the space outside your body, creates a more coherent message between your body and your brain. gets places or both hemispheres talking to each other, and helps turn your mind from choppy beta into an alpha wave, a little softer alpha. I mean, that's the place where clarity comes from. That's the place where inspiration comes from. Trying to grind yourself through a problem, this choppy doesn't work very well. That's how great artists have fantastic inspirations when they're in that alpha state, when they're in the bathtub, when they're in the shower, when they're on their way to the bathroom in the middle of the night. It's a place when they're not totally stressed out. It's when they're not in beta. So a few of those techniques, like Mariela has, when you start feeling the body, that is an also gateway into alpha. And it's also a great technique to try and get to sleep. That is a beautiful meditation for just feeling your body and turning that brain wave into a softer alpha pattern. And that is a gateway to having better night's sleep too. Just a little extra tip.
And go ahead.
When I was in art school, we had a belief that we worked best under pressure. Has anybody had that belief? But when you think about it, when you're pressed and you're stressed, you don't have access to everything, And so then you're also kicking up your system. And so then I remember examining that one time, like, when did I make that up? Or when did I just adopt that? And I started to realize, and I do artwork and stuff, is that as I get quieter and clear out, then I have access to that which is, beyond me. And so you have that same kind of access to what's beyond you in your personal story or life. When you do quiet that mind, it's like taking a lid off of a cup, and then you're just clear to get full. And so when you can rely on not just your own mind and yourself, so I think this, different types of meditation, different movements, different clearing of energy, all of that is going to kind of take your focus off of the data that's in the mind and allow you to experience yourself more fully. And when I first started learning this years ago, clearing the mind kind of stuff, I remember saying to my teacher, but what about this and what about this? And he said, Cindi, the last thing you need in your head is more data. Would you just experience the quiet? And as I did that, I began to see how full the quiet is. So it's very trustworthy, to also release, So whatever mode you use.
I just want to let you know real short that if you would like to engage the alternate nostril breathing, since we didn't have time, I'm here for sure for half an hour after the service, okay?
Wonderful, thank you. I'm going to stay and I've got a question for the group because I've been trying to learn about my intuition. And how do I determine intuition from anxiety? Right?
By quieting down. If you quiet down, you'll clear the part that you're making up. So you get your own head out of the way, then you can tell if it's coming from your intuition and your higher sense of yourself or the field. But you can't do that if your mind is kicking it, because it's going to be creating stories and information. So to know whether it's really coming from a deeper place or a higher place, you have to turn that noise down a little bit.
Thank you. One more question from Katie.
Thanks, you guys. What can you suggest for helping kids and in families?
I think one of the easiest things that I use with families and kids is teaching the EFT, the tapping, or sometimes tapping them, or to shift their attention. I love to also teach kids, like when they don't think they can change their mind, when they're really fixed, is to be able to say, think of something cold, think of something hot, think of something, this. And then that's the evidence that the mind can change. And so sometimes you might just direct them to, hey, let's shift, and give them words that mean something has to change. So I love using the word let's shift, because that doesn't mean that there's anything negative or terrible about anything. It just means that let's shift. And it shifts the energy too with your intent. When you use intent, you're shifting your energy whether your body feels like it shifts yet or not. So, intent is always going to first dominate energy.
And Cindy, I believe that what other EFT practitioners shared with me, that with a child and a teddy bear, you can tap on it too, and that also helps for them.
This has been wonderful. I love it. Thank you so much, Mariela, Jay, Cindi, for
Neil.
taking this.